Hey everybody, this is Andres from Board Gamify, and today I'm back to talk to you about Furnace. Furnace from Arcane Wonders is a 2 to 4 player auction engine building game where players are going to be bidding on resources and cards to eventually turn those resources into victory points. Now in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to set up the game and how to play with my review and comment coming towards the end. So like always, I'll include some timestamps at the bottom, so if you want to skip around, feel free to do that. Let's go ahead and start with the setup of the game. So the first thing you're going to want to do is give each player their starting components. So each player is going to receive 4 bidding tokens with labeled 1 through 4 and a token matching that color. They'll also receive a random starting company card, and they'll gain the resources at the top of that card. The next thing you'll want to do is make sure all of the resources and the point tokens are in arm's length for each player, and then you'll shuffle the company cards and set out a number of cards equal to the number of players plus 4. So in this 3-player setup, I've got 7 cards laid out here, and then you'll set the round marker to 1 and choose a random starting player. And that's it for the setup. Once you've got that ready, you're ready to dive into the game. So in Furnace, the game is played in 4 rounds, with each round consisting of 2 phases. The first phase is the auction phase. Now, in the auction phase, players will be placing one of their bidding tokens on a card in the center row in turn order. So players will continue doing this until all of their tokens have been placed out. Now, there's two rules that you must follow when placing your tokens. The first is no card can have 2 tokens from the same player. So each player can only have 1 token on any given card. And the second rule is each card can only have 1 disc of that value. So in this situation where the red player has placed their 1 disc, the yellow and black player can no longer place their 1 discs on this card. If they wanted to bid on that, they'd have to place a 2, 3, or 4. So like I said, players will continue placing their discs one at a time in turn order until all of their discs have been put out, at which point you'll resolve all of the cards in the center row from left to right. So let me go ahead and set up a situation. So when resolving the cards, you're going to do 2 things. The first is the compensation. So players who bid on a card but do not win will get a compensation action, and that they're going to get that compensation action a number of times equal to the disc that they placed there. So here the compensation action is to gain 2 coal. So the red player would gain 2 coal, the yellow player would gain 4 coal, and then the black player would gain the card itself. And you'll do this for each card with any cards that don't have any tokens on them just being discarded. And you'll always go from left to right. And the reason going from left to right is important is because some of these compensation actions allow you to transfer things. So like this allows you to transfer iron into upgrade tokens. So you may want to get compensation here before here, but if those cards were reversed, you'd have to still do them from left to right. Once you've done that, that's the end of the auction phase. You can move on to the production phase, where players will be activating all of the cards that they've gained thus far. So let's say the red player ended up with these cards in front of them. Now, before I get into how the production phase works, let me explain a few things. The first is the production phase is done simultaneously by all of the players. So all players will be activating their cards at the same time. And the next thing is each of the company cards can only be activated once per production phase, and the card must be completely activated before you can move on to the next card. So if you look at these here, you'll notice at the bottom of the card there's some grayed out symbols with the colored symbols above them. Now the symbols that are in color are what you have access to right now. The grayed out symbols is just an indicator of what the card will give you once it's been upgraded. And I'll explain upgrading cards in just a second. So let's go ahead and run through this as if I were the red player. So the first thing I may want to do, so I've got my 2 starting coal. I'll activate this card to gain 2 more coal. Then I'll activate this card to gain an iron. And then I'll activate my starting company card, which gives me 1 upgrade token. Then it allows me to turn in an iron for 2 points up to 2 times. So I've got 1 iron, so I'll go ahead and do that once. And then I can turn in an upgrade token and a coal to upgrade any of my cards. And I can perform this action as many times as I want, indicated by the infinite symbol. Now, one thing to note, you can upgrade any of the cards that you have in front of you, but if you're upgrading a card that you've already activated, you can't go back to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll upgrade this last card that I haven't used yet. So I'll go ahead and use that now. I can turn in 2 coal for 2 points up to 2 times. So I've got 3 coal, so I can do that once. I'll go ahead and get in another 2 points. And now since I've upgraded it, I also have access to this action at the bottom, so I'll gain an oil. And that would mark the end of my production phase. So like I said, all players are doing this simultaneously. Once all of the players have finished their production, you'll move the round marker to the next round, and you'll draw 7 new cards from the deck. You'll continue doing this for each of the 4 rounds, and then at the end of the 4th round, whoever has the most points wins. The one thing I haven't explained yet are the capitalist cards. So in the rulebook, they do recommend that you not play with these for your first game. I could really see this going either way. Essentially what these cards are asymmetric player powers. So you would randomly deal one of these out to each of the players, giving them a unique ability to use throughout the game. So for example, this one says, whenever you get compensated, your disc is considered to be 1 higher than it is. This one allows you to place more than one of your discs on a single card in the auction phase. This one gives a player an additional bidding token with a value of 2. So they all give you different powers. The only reason I could see not playing with this the first time is maybe if you have somebody in your playgroup that's not familiar with engine building games. You may want to hold off on these just so they can focus on getting that part of the game down without having to worry about this. Since, as you saw, a lot of these break the normal rules of the game, so it's just another layer of complexity that they'd have to deal with while trying to build their engine and get used to the game. So that's how you play Furnace. Let's go ahead and move on to the overview portion, and we'll start with components. The components in this game are fine. The resources are your typical painted wooden tokens, nothing special, but definitely suffice for the game. The upgrade tokens and point tokens are your cardboard punch outs, but what really shines for me are these wooden bidding discs. Now they do increase in size based on their value, which is really nice, because as you are in the auction phase, even if they're stacked on top of each other like this, it's really easy to see who's winning. And, so it's something that they really didn't have to do, but it's nice that they did. The round marker is oddly satisfying, getting to move this from round to round. And the rulebook. The rulebook is really nice. It's very well illustrated and very concise. You can read through this pretty quickly, and it's only about 2.5 pages of rules. And then at the end, it shows you some variants and the 2-player version. Speaking of which, the 2-player version plays with the same rules. The only thing you have to do different is there's a 3rd phantom player who's going to be bidding on the companies based off a roll of the dice. And then let's go ahead and get into kind of some of my overall thoughts on the game. I really like the game overall. I think the auction phase really stands out to me. The compensation mechanic I think is fascinating. It really adds this other layer of complexity to where you're not only bidding to gain cards, but you're bidding in the hopes that you lose sometimes because you may really need some iron on this particular turn. So it adds this really nice mind game of when you're going to place certain discs and holding certain ones back to see if somebody's going to use their force. You can drop your 3 on it. I really like that part of the game. The capitalist cards are also a nice touch. The powers are all pretty powerful. I haven't really noticed an imbalance in them yet. So yeah, I really liked these. I think my one concern with the game is probably its variety, which kind of leads into its replayability. The game plays the same every single time. even with this deck of company cards, you're not going to get through all of them in each game, but they're all just variations of each other, right? Each card either gives you resources, turns resources into other resources, or turns those resources into points. So none of them are really unique or stand out. A lot of it is just the optimization of the engine and the cards you get. So if I haven't highlighted that enough yet, this is very much an optimization game. So all of you out there that really like to min-max and like that really tight feeling game, this is it. All right, the game plays in 4 rounds, and you really feel that angst where you're just trying to squeeze out every point possible from your cards before the end of the 4th round. So I know some people don't like that. That fits really well for me. I like that tight feeling. I like feeling that angst and really trying to optimize what I'm doing every single round. But even with the replayability issue, I really like this game. I think it's a game that could probably do with some type of module or expansion in the future. But even without that, I think it's a game that, even though it may not get tabled every gaming session, I definitely enjoy pulling this out every now and then. So yeah, I highly recommend this game. If you like engine building games, I think this is definitely one to check out. So if you guys liked this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll talk to you next time.